Welcome. I'm Mike Nye.
And I'm Tarran Merlo from the Hail and Well Met podcasts.
And I'm Alex C. Telander from the Ostium Network. And welcome to our Tea-Cast. While there is tea, there is hope. Welcome to another episode of While There Is Tea, There Is Hope. This is episode 7, Tea on the Orient Express. We're going to start off with the not so good news, but the practical news that Tarran brought up and we discussed and realized is a acceptable reality, I think, for all of us. I have a second child, and that's going to change things very suddenly for me in my life and make things very unpredictable, and we're not sure when we'll be able to do another While There Is Tea, There's Hope. So we're just going to announce at this point, after this episode, we're going on a few months hiatus. I would guess through February, I think. So ideally a new episode come March, but nothing is set in stone. I don't know what it's going to be like as the weeks go by, but we're just going to take a break now and face things, just because with Christmas and everything gets very hectic. So Tarran is here with me. No Mike this time, just Tarran and me. Tarran, how are you doing?
Very good. Yes, very good.
Good. Let's do what are we all drinking? So what are you drinking today?
I've gone with something very familiar, very simple, very standard, I think, for a lot of us, and that is a not even loose leaf. So I am feeling a little bit.
You're bagging it
today. Yeah, I am.
I'm bagging it too, if that helps.
I did get out my teapot.
Now, I'm not going to say we're tea bagging it, because that means something else, and that's a different kind of shit.
It does. No, I got out of the teapot and I was all ready to go with the loose leaf. I looked around at my loose leaf that I had sitting there, and I went, I don't think I'm in the mood for anything fancy this morning.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. Actually, I've had it pretty much my whole day has been like that today. I've had lots of tea, but it's all been tea bag stuff because I haven't been in the mood to try anything fancy.
I did have I had a hankering for an Australian afternoon tea. So it's another Twinings blend. It's quite a nice strong blend. But no, I decided I would have myself a cup of Twinings English breakfast with a dash of milk. No, so it's I don't know if you
even
can
though
see,
it's it is morning for you, isn't it? I was going to say it's evening for me, but it's morning for you, so it works. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 to 12. So I'm still technically morning, but yeah.
Before the booze start, no.
It's probably a little bit lighter than if you can see that, but yeah. Again, I'm showing video on our Zoom call, which makes a great audio podcast.
It's not a creamy white; it's more of a darker coffee look to it. So that's good. It's not too much.
I was quite concerned. I poured the milk in as the water was going in. Oh, because I was in a bit of a rush, right? So I just sort of and I was using my automatic water dispenser, the heating water dispenser.
The fancy one that goes to all the different temperatures. Yep,
it does. This was done at 85 degrees, 200 mil. Poured a dash of milk in, and obviously, the tea bag hadn't had time to settle and release and steep and do all the goodness that we love. So I poured this thing in. I'm like, oh, hang on, I've just got a cup of milk. I'm like, ugh, watered down milk. That's gonna. So I was very nervous, but after a couple of minutes, I let it steep. I squeezed the bag a little bit, and I'm like, oh, good. Okay. There we go.
All right. Whew. Otherwise, it was just going to be an English break, wasn't it? Not a break.
Yeah, exactly. Just have a cup of milk. What about yourself, Alex? What are you drinking?
All right. So if you remember last time, there was the Christmas Day tea I was trying that was a black tea with a bit of jasmine in it. It was really nice. And then I said there was another one. This was a gift we got last Christmas from my sister-in-law. And then there was another one that was the Christmas Eve tea that I hadn't tried that was a herbal blend. And so that's what I'm trying today. So it's the Stash Christmas Eve. And then what is it? Oh, wait, that's the French side, so we won't do this in French. Just like curling up by the fire on a snowy Christmas Eve, this peaceful blend warms you from deep within. Each soothing sip will wrap you up in the spicy, sweet flavors of cinnamon, orange peel, and spearmint. I wish I definitely pick all those out. Yeah, cinnamon spearmint, orange peel, vanilla extract, orange oil, cinnamon oil with other flavors, and clove bud oil.
Ah,
So it's not a
I
black tea, which is
quite
my
like.
usual go-to, but it's a nice herbal one that's really nice and light and a mixture of different flavors. So it's not just like,
Oh, okay.
I'm drinking some wet leaves or whatever. Sometimes herbal tea can seem like that.
Yeah.
And again, you don't need to do anything. You throw the bag in, make it sure it's super hot, and then you just enjoy it. And it's good. I guess the idea is you drink it on Christmas Eve to try and calm down before mayhem breaks Christmas morning.
This is my problem being in the southern hemisphere, where our Christmases and where our seasons are reversed, right? So,
right.
Christmas Day is usually anywhere from a good Christmas Day is usually the low 30 degree centigrade temperatures. So, what does that equate to? Is that around 100, give or take?
Oh, well, 30s, almost. I think, 90s.
Yeah, in the 90s. Yep. So that's sort of a good. It's not too hot. You can usually sit outside and enjoy lunch. Yeah, and you sort of usually do a Christmas lunch. Most of the time, yes. There has been a few weird summers in the last probably decade where it's been, it's rained on Christmas Day or thereabouts, and you think this is just strange. But a bad Christmas day here is usually, you're having a heat wave of over 40-degree days, so it's in the 110s for you guys. And you've had that for 3 or 4 days, and you've hit Christmas, and it's stinking hot. You're inside, and you're really glad you've got air conditioning that you hope is still working. And then you usually pack the house with 20 people, and it doesn't matter how good your aircon is. It's
and
still
cooking.
Yeah. Well, this is why usually, you get that stereotype of Australians having a barbecue for Christmas, because at least you can then cook and keep the heat outside so that your inside staying a little bit cooler.
That makes a lot of sense. Because you don't want that oven going.
Exactly. I can't remember the last time we did a traditional, Christmas meal. But, the whole roast turkey and the roast vegetables and that stereotypical movie scene Christmas meal. We don't do it because it's hot and it's. I mean, in saying that, we'll still do roasts and that sort of jazz. And I think this year we're planning on doing assorted cooked meats and those sort of things. So sure, it's probably going to happen. But that lovely image that you've described on the back of that tea pack of curling up by the fire on a snowy Christmas day and warming yourself up. It's the polar opposite, literally polar opposite.
Literally.
Of what we want to be doing on Christmas Day. It's the last thing.
The way we get away with it over here in the States is we do all the big turkey stuff on Thanksgiving. So that's the thing. So then you're really off the hook for Christmas, where you could do a ham or something else, or Chinese, as we have done sometimes, or whatever. So we put it, just grab it and not make it a big deal. One time we did vegetarian lasagna, which was good. A spag bowl, whatever it is.
Multicultural Christmas foods.
Yeah, because it's all about being together and enjoying each other and the presents, and not so much about the food. Because we already did that, 3 weeks ago with Thanksgiving.
That's true.
Where we ate ourselves silly and regretted it.
I think this year, for Father's Day this year, I got an outdoor smoker. To smoke meat.
I just got myself one too in Animal Crossing, the game.
It's effectively the same thing. Yeah. So I think the desire will be load that thing up with assorted different meats, let it sit there, cook from the morning, and the plan is lunch. So when we've had that conversation at home, I've said, hey, you do realise, a lot of these things are an 8-hour cook or more. You want it by lunch. That means I'm waking up at about 2 a.m. to start doing this.
This is a smoker, not a bakery.
I'm like, well, I don't know if that sounds great, but hey, that's all right. I'll do an early wake up.
Yeah,
make myself a cup of tea, sit down, and put the meat in.
At least you won't be cold.
Exactly. I can curl up with a cup of the tea you've got. It'll be freezing cold at
2 in the morning. And think of it later when it's blistering hot.
Exactly.
All right.
I mean,
let's
saying
let's
that, if it is,
let's bring this back to tea. I did want to throw in a quick thing before we get started with the info here. Is so I recently got when I got my flu shot, I got a little coupon, $5 off, whatever. I was like, oh, good, I'll get myself a little something. So I got myself some tea, and I got PG Tips, which I haven't had in years. But it's always been, it's a bit of a fancier tea that I haven't had in a long time, and I always liked it and stuff. So now whenever I have it, I don't like it because I've gotten so used to having the Tetley that I get dirt cheap at my other shop. And it's so every time I try PG, it's like, I just don't like this. I want the Tetley that's so much better, even though it costs half the price. So you never know. Yeah, even though it says on the box of the PG Tips, Britain's #1 tea or whatever it is, it's like, no, I don't. I disagree. Tetley for me. There you go. Anyway.
Oh man, that's it is amazing how your palate does change to adapt to what what you've had.
Yeah, well, and then later on I had what was it? It was an Irish breakfast, but again, it was like that tasted much better. The PG Tips to me doesn't do much. Just it's kind of boring. Doesn't do enough for me, even if it's strong. Anyway, let's go on to our little history segment. Here we're touching on the advent of tea coming to the Western world, to the white people, where, as we've talked in past episodes, it's been around for a long time in China and Asia, everyone enjoying it there, and now we're having it sweeping over to the West as they basically steal it and take over it and make it seem like they've had it forever, even though they did not. The discovery of tea in the West. Traders, missionaries, and explorers traveling back and forth between Europe and the Orient became exposed to the budding tea traditions in China and Japan. Around the 9th century, references in Arab trade documents referred to the process of boiling bitter tea leaves. Later, Marco Polo, 1254 to 1324, alludes to his discovery of tea in his travel writings about the East. However, tea didn't make a lasting appearance in the West until the 17th century. Quite a bit later, a Portuguese missionary is attributed with bringing tea to Europe while caravanning back and forth between Portugal and China, but it was not seriously traded until Dutch merchants entered the picture in 1610. That year, the first shipments of Japanese and Chinese tea arrived in Europe via ships chartered by the Dutch East India Company. Tea also flowed into Russia early on via camel trains that came from China on part of the famous Silk Road. The popularity of tea rapidly spread to cities including Amsterdam, Paris, and London, although its high price limited the consumption to royal and aristocratic classes. Tea drinking, a novelty at the time, allowed the wealthy to partake in a bit of Eastern adventure during the age of the exploration and discovery. So we have this, tea that we feel has been in the Western world for thousands of years, maybe, or whatever, and it's, as usual, not true, and was just taken. And again, it wasn't just like they tried it and went, oh, this is good, let's all have this. It was you had to force it out. It had to come, arrive multiple times and try in different ways. And of course, right away, it becomes a noble thing that only the rich people can have. And then later on becomes something for the masses.
Yeah.
I suppose, was this a surprise to you?
No. What was interesting to me was your mention of Marco Polo.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of anecdotally, whenever his name has come up, it's he brought tea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sort
attributed
of
to the white guy as usual, right? Yeah.
Of course, right. But interestingly enough, I did find a really short but interesting little blog post from a company called the EnglishTeaStore.com.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this blog post from back in 2014 that talk a little bit about it. And obviously he's associated with tea, absolutely, in Western culture. But he born in sort of the 12th, 13th century in 1254. Yep, there we go,
13th and 14th, yep.
Yeah.
Just before the Black Death.
Yeah, exactly. Brought by tea, of course. Tea's involved in everything. He wasn't around in Western culture, so he was obviously Italian. For those of you who don't know who Marco Polo is, he was born in Venice. obviously in Italy. So at that time, there was no tea drunk. It may have been known, but even then, probably very vaguely and not really well known in any way.
And I was just thinking, I wonder if it was also because a lot of the stuff he was bringing back was spices, pepper, cinnamon, all these different things that were expensive. But it was also because the food was so terrible, so you had to throw all this stuff on it to make it taste at least palatable so you could eat it. Whereas this tea stuff was stood on its own, and you wouldn't want to really try that,
Yeah. So his father was a merchant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his father traded with China, and worked through all of those spices and all of those sort of things. That's how he earned a living. So that association with his dad doing that sort of trade, he learnt a lot about foreign currency and the appraisal of that, handling cargo ships, the logistics of working through those sort of things. Interestingly, his dad was out on a trading trip before he was born, and Marco didn't actually meet his dad until he was 15. So he didn't get back from that trip until he was 15 years old. So when we talk about trade these days, and I know, Alex, we've talked about postage delays and that sort of thing, even the podcast, sort of going, this guy was out on a trading trip for 15 years. So
not a quick jaunt.
No. So when he was 17, so 2 years after that, he and his father and his father's brother, so his uncle, went to Asia, and Marco's, that's where he sort of went and documented out what he did. Right. And he didn't return to Venice until he was 41.
Jesus.
So my maths is terrible, but 41 minus 17, however many years that was, he spent decades
years,
in Asia. So
I mean, could you really consider him Italian still?
Well, I mean, exactly. He spent more time in Asia than he did in Italy now. So, but they obviously brought back a whole bunch of stuff. They travelled around about 15,000 miles in their journey. There's a few different versions of the story of his travels, but apparently those versions seem to contradict each other in a lot of ways. So hard to know exactly where he went and what he did. But given the time he was there and where he was and those sort of things, and those accounts where they do overlap and say, yes, this is clearly stuff that happened, can absolutely conclude that Marco, his father, and his uncle all would have had tea while in China.
I was about to say, with how you explain this now, it was obvious that he was bringing back all these spices that everyone wanted, and he's like, and I've got this delicious tea you should try, and they're like, oh no, don't want to do that. And he's like, I've been drinking it for 20 years. It's delicious. You should try it.
Seriously, guys, it's really good. It reminds me of that episode of Futurama where Fry finds the last can of sardines, and he tells everyone, you've got to try them on pizza. It's the best thing in the world. They all try them, and they go, oh, that's disgusting. And he goes, yeah, it's an acquired taste. And you go, it's probably like tea, but if you're only bringing back enough for everyone to have a glass, it ain't going to go down too well. So,
and depending on how you have it and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. With where they traded and who they talked to and that sort of stuff, they obviously had tea. But to be honest, I don't know all the details of how they left, but it was, as I understand it, was a fairly quick departure. Some might call it an escape from China and from Asia. So the assumption is that they probably didn't bring tea back with them, or if they did, it would have been in no way large amounts. Yeah. So it was sort of I think, hundreds of years before tea was something that was taken and drunk and enjoyed in Western culture, it was definitely known about. And people would have heard it, so it wouldn't have been an immediately unfamiliar. Hey, here's this leaf drink from China that's called tea. So by the time it got to that point in that 17th century time frame, even if individuals hadn't have heard it, society may not have necessarily been instantly, oh yes, sorry, oh, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
There's a good chance it would have been, yep, we're aware of its existence. Yeah.
But now you've got to convince us to try to enjoy it. Yeah.
Like
Like caviar from Russia, and they say, "Oh, what is this?
Yeah.
Wait, what is this?" Did you say fish eggs?
Yes, you have them in your teeth. Like,
So now we're going to go a little bit about
Balls of
it
salt.
arriving specifically in England, the birth of an English love affair. The English did not gravitate towards tea immediately. I know, shocker. Coffee remained the preferred drink in coffee houses, frequented mainly by men. The tea fad caught on slowly with women who perceived it as a genteel drink. In 1657, the first shop to sell tea in England opened, run by Thomas Garraway. The shop sold tea imported by the Dutch and contributed to the rise in its popularity in London's cafes and coffee houses. The drink gained further legitimacy.
So I was going to say, Garraway's name sounds familiar from previous episodes. Did he end up, or is it a case of where
I don't know. See, this is why we need Mike to be Googling this and having the answers for us.
This is very true.
So let me do the next paragraph, and you look up Garraway real quick, right? So the drink gained further legitimacy when Charles II married Catherine of Braganza, a Portuguese royal who adored tea because Portugal had had tea for a while, and introduced the concept of tea time to the court. Soon thereafter, a key competitor to the Dutch, the British East India Trade Company, established their first foothold in the East by securing a tea factory in Macau. So they're basically doing their best to catch up now that they're realizing there's money in this too. But it's interesting that it took actually having a shop and actually a place selling the tea to actually start to convince people they should be doing this. They should be enjoying tea and trying tea, you know. If there's so much of this stuff in one place, it must be important.
Exactly. Well, and I think the place, specifically Garraway's being that place, was a big part of that in its own right. So Garraway's Coffee House was in Exchange Alley, which not that I know English roads very well, London roads, but Exchange Alley is where sort of in the business district. So a lot of
it wasn't Gallows Road.
Correct. So Thomas Garraway, who was the original proprietor, he was already selling tea, but brought it into Garraway's Coffee House, so that specific building where he started selling it, which, as you said, that was the first place where it was physically sold there. And what you had in that coffee house, which it was sort of this merchant go-to place. So you had it became famous as sort of this. You go there for a sandwich and a drink. And apparently it was said that the sandwich maker spent 2 hours preparing each day's food in advance. Wow. So, a lot of time and effort went into it. But, they had a whole bunch of different merchants, different tea merchants as well coming to Garraway's. You had even people apparently said the works of Charles Dickens include many references to Garraway's. And Daniel Defoe wrote about it being frequented by wealthy traders. So it was. I think a lot of it was, hey, there's a physical place you can go and get this tea, and it's obviously
and then a spread of like word of mouth spread as people tried it and started telling everyone else about it, and that's the best kind of advertising you can want.
You have that class structure where you've got your lords and ladies of court who, in their minds are at the top of the pyramid kind of thing. Yeah. And you had your self-made lords and ladies, or rather your wealthy business people, your wealthy merchants who could buy their way into those sort of situations and those sort of circles. So they are the sort of people that would have been going to or having their servants go to, or whatever the case was, go to somewhere like a Garraway's to do trades over a coffee, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously that word of mouth instantly spreads into court circles. Hence where you get your upper class, for lack of a better word, being intimately aware of and drinking that stuff.
And you have, of course, you have one family drinking tea, and then one of the other families is like, well, what are they drinking? Why are they drinking tea? Maybe I should be drinking tea. That's the new thing that we rich people do. So let's get some tea, right?
It seems to be the way things go in England, especially. Mm-hmm. Sadly, the Garraway's Coffee House was burnt down by fire in 1748 after being open for 216 years. So you can't go and visit it.
So it didn't burn down in the Great Fire then either.
No, interestingly.
So it survived that, but it didn't make
Yeah. But no, like you've said a few times there, obviously, you had one rich person talking to another rich person or seem to be drinking this thing. And it seems to be the way England works is as soon as Britain sees someone else doing something, it's, we want that. That's I've got to be doing it. Which
and then as it starts, snowballing, whatever, and then when there's money involved in it, and we can make money out of this, then
now, not only do we want it, but we now want to control it.
Exactly, we want proprietary over it. Yeah. I wanted to break down a little bit the flow of tea here. So we had it starting in China, going to Japan.
Oh, I thought you were more literal there. It comes out of the pot.
Flow of tea. Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't become tea until you mix the leaves and the water, right?
That's true.
And the milk necessarily and the sugar. So it can only flow into your mouth. That's the only way it can flow. It's not tea otherwise. Great. Have a sip. So then going from Asia then to Portugal and Holland. That's where we get that orange pico, as we learned from Holland.
Yes.
Which has nothing to do with the flavor, but all to do with the flag and the country colors. And then going on to England. Before maritime trade developed, however, the commodity moved west via the Eurasian silk or tea roads, a fact noted in several European travelers' accounts in the mid-16th century. The first known mention of tea in a European text appeared in the multi-volume collection of travel accounts Della Navigazione et Viaggi, 1550 to 59, Voyages and Travels is what that means, translated and edited by the geographer and secretary to the Venetian Senate, Giovanni Battista Ramuzio. This Venetian declared to have learned about a herb called Chai Katai from a Persian merchant, Haji Mohammed. Tea appears.
There are a lot of names there, and you did very well.
How do you know? The Italian, I can probably wing it. Tea appears.
It sounded good.
Good. Tea appears. If you put emphasis in it, then everything sounds good, right? You got to sell it. Got to sell it. PG Tips, Britain's #1 tea, even if it doesn't taste like it. Tea appears in a limited number of key texts, and the fact that the Persian word "chay," that's CHAY, is similar to the Mandarin "cha," CHA, points to tea's early travels across Asia and the Near East. And I think we're eventually going to do a whole jokey episode on chai, cha, have a cup of chai, tea, which is TT, which we've mentioned before. The Dutch East India Company, chartered in 1602, brought the first tea to Europe from Japan and China in 1610. During the next decades, tea made its way to the European continent, but only aristocrats, as we know, monarchs, and society's wealthiest consumers could afford this status symbol. So it really wasn't even about the flavor at first. It was just about having the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, which is kind of hilarious because today it's all about the packaging, as we've talked about before, isn't it? And how it looks. And as I said, Britain's #1 tea and all this stuff, which is funny because it kind of harkens back to that. It's not even so much what it tastes like, it's what it stands for. Yes.
And that's, I mean, unfortunately, it's a reality with a lot of things. It's the reality with a lot of things. It's all about the status symbol that's associated with brand X. Doesn't matter if it's tea, coffee, you name it. All of that has, in part, some influence. And it's.
I mean, you can say the same thing also about Starbucks with that logo. The iconic logo that's known all over the world. But The coffee
Absolutely.
is
I mean, and
always
that's why you
mediocre
have
at best.
marketing companies, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's exactly right. You have marketing companies that do a great job of ensuring that their logo is the one that people associate with the product.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not their product is the best version of it or not, it's the reason why, in England, you don't say you're going to vacuum your house. You say you're going to Hoover their house, because that's the
Exactly.
name
Yeah.
that's associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or why
So
I say I need to
I
go
just want
grab
to
a tissue
mention this meme today that I've been sharing on Facebook that says, when you take your vacuum cleaner and you take it apart and start taking all the stuff out of it, the hair and bits and stuff that got clogged, you in turn become a vacuum cleaner.
You're a vacuum cleaner. I like it.
So I'm gonna end it with this last quote, which I think kind of brings it all into context of it's all about the status symbol, and then you also have the competing countries here of Europe with Portugal and Holland and England and Germany in this case. So the German Duchess Elizabeth Charlotte d'Orléans nicely described her disgust of tea in a letter. Tea makes me think of hay and dung, coffee of soot and lupine seed, and chocolate was too sweet and gave her a stomachache. Tea, coffee, and chocolate were acquired tastes.
See, I find that one really funny, because chocolate seems to be this thing, and I'm saying this from my kids' perspective, where if I put a plate in front of them, especially our youngest, when you first put a plate in front of them of broccoli, no, turn my nose up. You put a plate of something equally that we know is stereotypically unappealing, and they'll just, no, I don't want it. You put chocolate in front of them, and they will just eat it, no questions asked. And you think to yourself...
So the way we've gotten around the broccoli thing, by the way, is we have a broccoli race. You usually get 3 or 4 pieces of broccoli, little pieces, and then we have a broccoli race, and somehow he always beats us by eating it first. It's weird, but every time he manages to do it.
You've got to pick up your game.
Yeah, I know. And then also with the chocolate thing, my kid doesn't like regular chocolate as much. He prefers the other sweets and things, which is interesting, which is weird, because then, it's just, we don't know with the next one if it might be different, but because normally you'd think chocolate, gobble it down.
I'm similar. I prefer, I mean, you can probably tell by my weight that I enjoy my food, but
it's the pandemic, it's okay.
Yeah, that's true. It's all COVID weight, right? Just don't look at photos from beforehand.
There has always been COVID.
Yeah. No, I prefer pastries and tarts and pies and those sort of things to chocolate specifically. Whereas my wife, she is the polar opposite there. She would go straight for a block of chocolate and not even consider touching that Danish or pastry or flan or you name it. So it's sort of,
I'd probably grab both.
Yeah.
What about
taste,
dark chocolate? Does she like dark chocolate?
She does, but not as much. So I get the impression that this Elizabeth Charlotte d'Orléans would have probably preferred a nice dark bitter chocolate instead of the sweet.
And I think as a case, she was able to put her aristocracy aside and just be like, this tastes awful, I don't like it. No matter who's drinking or eating it.
It's like, you guys are idiots. This stuff is not nice. Why?
I mean, my mother-in-law is the same like that with coffee. She loves the smell, but she will not drink any of it because she doesn't think it tastes good.
Yep. And I've had this discussion with people around a few different things. Some... I'm not a brown liquor fan myself. I don't like bourbons or whiskies or rums or those sort of things. They've never appealed to me at all. Oh yeah, but they're an acquired taste. You just got to try some really good ones, and then you'll get a palate for them.
You just got to get drunk enough. Is that what you're saying?
Why do I want to acquire a taste for something I don't like? When there's plenty of other stuff out there. So it's the same. Same with.
That's why I've never been able to do beer too. Yeah, I've tried it, but stuff. I'm sure if I kept drinking whatever, but I don't want to.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like I don't like it, so why?
Now, but Mike's is Mike a dark liquor fan?
He is, yes,
He's
Mike.
one, yeah.
See, if Mike was on the call now, he would be he'd be telling me I'm an idiot. and
Waxing
it's just 'cause I
poetic
haven't tried a
on
good one.
the dark bourbon.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, hang on, I've got a little visitor here. Yes, buddy.
We could edit this out or keep it in.
Do you want some tea?
Mm.
Oh, you've got a lollipop. Would you like a lollipop? Yeah, you would. Do you want to show Alex your new haircut?
Very nice. Do you like it?
I do. I think he looks very cute. And the feedback from my wife, which is probably more importantly, was looks great, although he looks too grown up now.
He does. I was going to say.
Okay.
And she
Bye,
doesn't want
buddy. Bye, Indy. Sorry? You want to show me?
Yeah.
What do you want to show me? What are you doing? Daddy's doing something.
Okay.
that. We're almost done.
Do you want to go out and watch TV for a little bit? Yeah, it's a couch. Do you want to go out and watch TV? Okay. Yeah, it's pretty boring in here, isn't it?
Unless you like tea.
I don't let him into the recording room very often, so
That's probably good.
he wanted to see what it looks like. So.
I think they should all stay. I think the listeners will love it. And we'll release the video too, so they can enjoy it.
Yeah, at least some screenshots. Sorry about that.
So, pulling back to chocolate, tea, coffee, acquired tastes.
Yeah, I'm still the same way with my matcha, for example. I know we've talked about that before. I have tried another couple since we last talked about it, where I said that I just don't enjoy it, and unfortunately, I still don't enjoy it, and I can't see myself.
I still have not, and I still haven't braved myself enough to do it. And whereas Mike enjoys it, so we'll make a promise that some episode in 2022 we'll have a matcha episode where we'll do it and we'll make faces, and Mike can steer us straight.
Exactly, or try.
Yeah, we'll see how I come out, whether I'm on his side or yours. Though honestly, it never looks appealing to me.
No, it's. I drove through a drive-through coffee place today, and they had these new chillers. You know, they've got some new iced drinks, and they had a coffee, a mocha. There was an iced tea, and sort of looking at them, going, "Oh, I should get one of those." You know, they're probably full of sugar. No, I shouldn't. You know, it should be good, etc. And they had this green one. I went, "Oh, a spearmint milkshake sounds pretty good, though." And as I drove closer, I'm like, "Oh, that's an iced matcha. Oh, no thanks." Turned me off instantly.
All right, so let's segue into things we do like with our recommendations. If you have a recommendation for,
I do, episode. And it's actually one that I mentioned when I mentioned what I was drinking today, which was the English breakfast. Which, look, I'll put a recommendation in it. It is a nice, solid, known.
I can't remember if I have recommended it before. Maybe I have, or I've at least been drinking it before. But yeah, the Twinings English breakfast is a good go-to.
Yeah. It's a very good staple. In fact, I think it might have been my last tea bag of it, so I need to go and get some more, because it's the one that's usually drunk by people
Mike
when they come over.
some of the T2 English breakfast, which was nice as well too.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
No, my recommendation today would be another Twinings, which is the Australian afternoon tea. So it is. I know I've mentioned before the Bushels Bushels tea, which is that has got that sort of blue collar tone, similar to a mental blank. I've got a tin on my shelf that's got the Gruffalo on it, but it's got nothing to do with the Gruffalo. That was just a specialty tin for it. What's the UK workman's
Yorkshire?
corned bean Yorkshire tea? That's the one. So it's sort of the Australian version of the Yorkshire tea brand. It's a sort of it's a good strong.
Miners tea.
Twinings Australian afternoon tea is sort of the Twinings of that. It's a very nice, strong.
I know. I do love teas. Black teas where you leave the bag in for a good 5 minutes and it has a really good kick to it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have that bitter tannin aftertaste to it. It's just a good, strong tea taste to it. So, and the packaging's really lovely. It's sort of this dark red bottom, and it fades up into a sort of a sunset look. So it's an orange top, and it's got the silhouette of kangaroos on it. So I will. I do recommend it. It's a nice strong tea. It doesn't have the bit of sort of aftertaste to it. Does have some nice sort of earthy tone to it. Again, I usually add that touch of milk, but definitely no sugar. Otherwise, you might as well not bother having a strong tea taste. Just go and have a cup of sugar. But but yeah, that would be
I like to have
my
a balance where I
recommendation
want some
today.
sweetness, but I still want the strong tea flavor. But
That's
everyone's
true.
different.
Yeah. But no, I will actually, and a slight off-topic segue, but I've been putting together a I hope it arrives in time Christmas package to send across to you guys.
Oh, thank you. I was about to ask. Maybe you should send some of this over. Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So I've got a T2 black tea selection in there already, and as well as a couple of other Australian themed items for your consumption.
And the beauty of sending tea is it's light, so it costs.
It is. It is. So I've got. I'll include a box of the Australian afternoon for you as
so
well.
I'll be able to have plenty of kick when I'm up at all hours of the morning, dealing with a baby.
Exactly, that is the plan. I have also I've also included in there some new custom laser etched coasters for you with our TCAST logo on one of them. So
wow.
I'm hoping they don't have too much of a smoky smell from where they've been laser etched by the time they get to you. But you have to have that look.
Sounds very cool. Maybe there'll be a limited edition in our shop or something.
Yeah, can definitely do it. Cool. You are the test case, so
I look forward to it. The tea case, the tea tester.
Ooh. Yeah, exactly. What about yourself? What's your recommendation today?
My recommendation is kind of an anti-recommendation in that it's these two teas I got that I didn't like and they're not good, but I'm still going to talk about it. One was this, I got it at Trader Joe's, and it's the organic blood orange rooibos herbal tea blend. Nice little picture with a thing, looks fancy. I was thinking rooibos, it's going to have a nice little spice to it and be nice.
Yeah.
And it tastes bloody awful. There's no spiciness of rooibos. I really can't taste anything. The orange tastes very artificial and it's just not good. Then as we talked a little bit about last time with the advent of autumn and pumpkin spice throwing up on everything here, I got same place, Trader Joe's pumpkin spice rooibos. Also not bad, but we have kept it. Now, to tie everything back to display and packaging, we have kept the tin because it's a nice looking tin.
Yep, I'll give you that.
But that's the only thing that's staying. The tea is gone.
Oh, dear.
Packaging is just one thing, and tea, you don't really know what you're always going to get. So I think I will take it. I just like to try different things, but maybe it didn't cost enough. It was cheap tea. Maybe that was a problem.
Yeah, you've got to spend thousands of dollars before you get something high quality.
My local organic that does all local stuff, they have a whole big tea section where everything is approaching $10 and up and stuff that I always want to try sometime, but maybe for Christmas or something. But I have to run out of the tea I have already to get more as a thing. But
this is my problem. Last time I was somewhere that I could have procured quite a lot. Mm-hmm. I looked at it and went, I've limited to myself to I'm not allowed to buy any more anymore until I've moved it all into individual containers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my quantity. No more containers. So once I've used one up, I can buy some.
And when we have a day like today where we're just using tea bags, we don't really get through all the fancy stuff.
Exactly.
It still stays.
Exactly.
My last Christmas, I do remember my mother-in-law got her. I'm trying to if they're engaged yet. They are engaged now. So her future daughter-in-law. It was a kind of a tea spinner rack thing where you could put, I can't remember what it quite looked like, but you could put all different kind of tea bags and selections in there and have it as a kind of tea selection thing where you could, twirl it around and pick which teas you wanted and stuff, which is kind of fancy. So that's an option to do when you have too much tea,
I do have. I've got a metal board that I need to put up in my in the scullery, and I've got these. They're spice containers, but they're sort of short cylindrical spice containers with a clear lid on the front.
Yeah.
So my intent is to mount that on the wall, and these containers are magnetized on the base.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'm hoping to put them all up so I can see what I've got, and yeah, sort of. Oh, that's.
I just said this crazy idea because, like, well, you don't have earthquakes in Australia. It's usually okay, but I'm just imagining something happening, and all these tins fall to the ground, and all the loose leaf just mixes all together, and all you see is black tea.
No.
It's like a tea fan's nightmare. But that sounds good. Yeah, and that way you can kind of have them all organized and out of the way, so that I've got a few baskets and stuff, little basket things hidden away where I can stock stuff in, but I have a whole little tea area basically, so it doesn't keep getting everywhere. But yeah, because for a while I was doing the tea subscription service too, where I got 4 different teas every month, but it soon became, I have too much tea, I need to stop this now. It's not worth the money.
That's ultimately it, because unfortunately the leaves do go off.
Well, that was the other thing I was talking about. When you have these tins and stuff, you really want to make sure you have something that's airtight and locks it in.
Yes.
Yeah, because otherwise,
and the same with coffee. They've got a shelf life, and unfortunately, if you're keeping them out in the open or that sort of thing, then yeah, it's going to go off. It's going to lose its flavor. Yeah, exactly.
That's why I always like the Twinings tins, the big tins. They have that like metal lip. Once it clicks down, it's like, oh yeah, it's sealed in there now. Nothing's coming out.
Yep, exactly.
And then when you open up specifically the Twinings Earl Grey tin, you pop it open, and then it's got the sealed metal layer on top, and you peel that back and breathe it in.
Yep. Yep.
It's like opening up a can of new tennis balls. It's just a special smell.
It's got that smell to it, right?
Well, not of tennis balls, but of delicious bergamot.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully not tennis balls.
Yeah, no, I don't drink Earl Grey because it tastes like tennis balls. No. Even if they're fresh.
So I've got one last thing outside of Indy calling for mum. One last thing, which I think I sent you a link to it last week, but there's an online tea company called Tease, so Tease. Their website is teastea.com, and they sell a whole bunch of blends and zanes and teas and accessories and beauty products and all these sorts of natural and things, which they've got some really cool things in there. So I'll say that, and their packaging does look quite cool as well. Not metal.
So that was Tease, you said .com?
Correct. Now, what got me interested and in them, I haven't actually bought anything.
Would you
from
say
them.
what
I don't know
teased you about it?
Well, you say that, but the reason I liked it is they've got a blog post on there that is effectively 45 tea puns.
Oh.
And they are really well done. The best part is if you use the code TPUNS at checkout, you get 25% off your first order.
Brilliant.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to jump on next time we record. I'll give
you
them
deserve a plug.
Yeah, exactly, because they're right up our alley. And
Did you want to end with a tea pun then?
Well, I'll read a couple.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because I think they're very.
And that's how we'll end it. And again, that's teastea.com. So teasetea.com.
Yep.
Do you know where they're based?
No, I don't. I haven't done any more research into. They've got tea puns, and that's amazing.
Sometimes that's all you need. All right, let's have one.
Exactly. All right. So we talked about traveling today. We talked about the fact that the tea's been on a fairly long journey. So I thought I'd go with this one. Smart travelers who take part in long desert journeys always drink their chamomile tea.
You want to get your camel for your mile or mile for your camel? And how many camel miles per hour do you go?
I'll do one more. I'll finish.
I have a
I'll just
wonderful
read one more.
image of that too. I feel like you could do some good illustrations of it.
Yeah, yeah.
A
I thought it
racing
was
camel or something. Go the extra mile with your camel, you know. The extra
Exactly.
camel mile.
And I'll do another one which is more Marco Polo related.
Mhm.
But apparently, yeah, the reason Chinese teas are so good
Mhm.
is because they take oolong time to prepare.
I think I've heard that one before, maybe, but yes.
But no, they've got 43 more that
We'll
I
save for
figured
future
I will.
episodes, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yep.
And those two tied
gonna
in very nicely. Well done with that, tying them into our subject matter for today, our history lesson. Yeah.
Yep. I'll try and do that each time. Try and make them related to it.
So to reiterate what we said at the beginning, we're going on a hiatus with this episode. After this episode,
Yeah.
we don't know when we'll be back, but we will be back at some point in 2022.
Absolutely.
We may have
Hopefully
a tea break
having
in
drunk a lot of
here
tea.
at some point, 1 or 2. I don't know, whatever happens. If you guys,
Yes.
if Taryn or Mike have a time to do it, if I find time to do something, you never know. But we will be back. We're not going away. And
No.
for now, go back and listen to the other episodes and drink lots of tea.
And feel free to send us, a message on Twitter or emails or whatever the case might be. With if you've got something in particular that you'd like us to try, or if you've got any come across any information that you thought was particularly interesting that you'd like us to look into further and talk about on an episode, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah.
We're always happy to chat.
One of our listeners, Pat, does a really good job of doing that and tagging us a lot. And
Yes.
Twitter it's at the Tcast, right?
It is, yes. The
Tcast.
Tcast. It is, yep.
So do that,
So I might put a few of these puns up with some illustrations. I'll try and find something camel related that works well.
Camel mile. I'm just seeing this racing camel with speed lines going behind it.
Maybe that's how Marco Polo raced out of China on a camel stage.
Right. There you go. All right. I think we'll end on that. So thanks for listening. Any last words, Taryn?
No, nothing from me, mate.
Okay. We're all teed out. All right.
Yeah.
And then we'll see you again in 2022. Thanks for listening and have a good holiday season.